The Seahorse Effect by Seahorse. Chapter 29. Finally meeting the twins. Padme walked down the hall and Obi-Wan started opening up drawers in the kitchen, taking out everything they would need. A small sharp knife, a plastic tablecloth, a lot of dish rags, tongs, and some binder clips were placed on the countertop. He raided the guest room, soon-to-be nursery, for blankets, soft towels, an infant bathtub, and clothes for the two babies. The Jedi-themed clothes made him grin. With one more trip to the bathroom for rubbing alcohol for sterilizing and Anakin's homemade scanner, he walked back to the kitchen with the bundle of items. The couple must have passed him while he was in one of the rooms because they were already busily setting up. Anakin was wearing only a pair of pants slung low on his hips and a very excited expression. He made sure the tablecloth was straight while Padme, more nervous and in a white surgeon's gown, made sure all the tools were within easy reach. One of the stools doubled as her table, and after Obi-Wan dumped most of his pile on the counter, he handed her the medical tools. Anakin finished with the tablecloth and eagerly started laying out the clothes and blankets for the twins. The master nudged Padme's shoulder and nodded towards Anakin. "Look how happy he is," he seemed to say. "He's ready." She looked at her grinning husband, at the taut skin that sheltered her two babies, and a small knot of excitement uncurled in her chest. A few minutes of pain, and then she would get to meet them for the first time. I wonder if this is how new fathers feel. She finished laying out the tools and told Annie to lie down so she could put in the IV. Getting that from Naboo had not been easy, but she was glad she had. Deftly hooking him up, Padme said to Obi-Wan, "Can you fill the bath with warm water?" "Of course," he replied and grabbed the small tub. "Anakin, did you wash up?" "Yes," he said, "though we should probably clean the knife." In answer, Obi-Wan poured the rubbing alcohol into the clean cup, dipped the knife in it, and removed the excess liquid with a flick of his wrist. They both snapped on latex gloves, and then he handed the knife to Padme. "Are you sure we can't give you something for the pain?" she asked. Anakin nodded. "I need to be fully aware. Besides, I can put most of it into the Force." She smiled somewhat shakily and marked out the two cuts on his belly with a pencil. Then she picked up the knife and almost dropped it. Obi-Wan came up behind her and gently took the knife. "I'll do it, Padme. Anakin, can you check that position for me?" The younger man nodded, and his face went slack as he sank into the Force. While Anakin checked, Obi-Wan asked Padme, "Once I pull the first one out, can you hand me 2 binder clips?" She nodded calmer, now that she wasn't the one putting their hands inside her husband. Anakin woke up from his trance. Both stopped what they were doing to listen. "They're both lying head first, face down. One is on top of the other, so you'll have to get that baby out first. Tell me when they're both breathing so I can detach the placentas." Obi-Wan rested the knife blade on Anakin's skin at the top of the first cut, just under his navel. "Are you ready?" "Yes." He began to make the incision. Pain, hot and sharp, followed the blade. But Anakin had had worse, much worse. He held himself still and drained the cutting pain into the Force. Quickly, he delved deep into his body and worked to halt the bleeding. Slowing his heart rate, he almost jolted back to awareness when the second across the underside of the massive bump joined the first. Still, he drained the pain into the Force and kept his body in check. It would be over soon, and when it was, he would have 2 beautiful children. He just had to hold on. Obi-Wan's steady hands finished the second cut, and the blood flow slowed dramatically. "He's doing a good job," the older man marveled. He breathed deeply and gently folded the corners of skin and muscle back. It wasn't a pretty sight. Blood and other fluids mixed into something slimy, coating every surface and pooling in some places, but Obi-Wan did see the large lump he was looking for. As quickly and gently as the Jedi could manage, Obi-Wan slipped his gloved hand down the back of the small head, continuing past the neck and shoulders until he felt the child's rump. He ignored the fact that it was up to his forearms and his apprentice, and gently drew the child out mercifully without the baby's limbs snagging on the womb or the other twin. "Clips," he orders. Padme came forward with them. "Put them on the cord and snip between them." She knew this, of course, but it never hurt to remind her. Quickly she did so when Obi-Wan handed her the precious little life. Then he plunged his hand in again for the second child. The baby wasn't on the surface this time, and Obi-Wan felt his heart clench every time he brushed against the womb as he searched. Finally, he felt the curve of a tiny head and followed the curve until he found the baby's bottom and ever so gently pulled the child out. Padme was still busy with the first baby, so he tucked the infant against his chest and took care of the cord himself with the other hand. "Padme, can you take this one?" he almost shouted. Quickly, she bustled over and nestled the baby in her own arms. Obi-Wan turned back to Anakin. "They're both out," he said, and gave the two cords and attached placentas a tug. They wouldn't come out. Obi-Wan was suddenly aware of how much blood there was on his hands, the baby's, the table. Blood was everywhere, and Anakin wasn't responding. "Oh, Force, what have I done?" Frantically, he reached out and felt for a pulse. It was slow, but steady. But slow was okay, because Anakin was slowing it. Wait. Anakin was in the Force, that's why he didn't hear Obi-Wan. With relief that his friend was still somewhat all right, the master stretched out with his feelings and thought, "Both babies are out. You need to detach the placentas." An affirmative drifted through the Force, and Obi-Wan retreated back to the physical world. With another tug on the cords, both fleshy masses slipped out of Anakin, and he dropped them in a waiting trash bin. "I'm finished with the twins," Padme called. "Good, come here and help me sew him up," Obi-Wan ordered. Padme was at his side in a moment, but didn't immediately reach out. "Is he all right?" she asked, her voice slightly shaky. Obi-Wan looked at the young man again and smiled. "He's already healing himself. Now hand me that needle."